Awesome, and here we go. So welcome everyone, and we are so excited to do our second session for our ELL webinars and workshops. In this session, we'll be talking about implementing brain-based learning strategies to support ELLs. Like I said, thank you so much for supporting us, being here. We're real excited. We have been excited to get all of this up and going for a while. So I'm just kind of trucking along here, and we are going to get through this. So my name is, I see there was my typo, Jamie. There it is. Welcome to our second session. My name is Mariah again. I am going to be the presenter for this session, and we have our wonderful Jamie Trujillo, who is our lovely moderator. So if you guys have any questions, you can definitely put them in the chat, and Jamie will let me know when they are there, and we can just go back and forth. Now, this is going to be an interactive lesson or interactive presentation, excuse me. So if you do have any questions, just let me know. We can go through, we can stop, we can address things, or we can wait till the end. It's all up to you. We really want to make sure that this is guided for you and that it helps you all. You know, we're here to support you guys. Awesome. And here we go. So for this session, some of our outcomes that we want to do is identify some techniques to help facilitate English language instruction. So we want to give you tools that'll help you promote engaging activities. We want to make sure that they're brain-based. We want to give you all the tools that you might need in implementing some other strategies into your classroom. We also want to design engaging and learning experiences that increase motivation, engagement, and the English acquisition. So there's a lot going on here, and we're real excited to present this. So first things first, we are going to do a quick poll on your end. So this question is, what do learners spend most of their time doing in your classroom? Now, there's no right or wrong answer. We just want to know what exactly are they doing in your classroom. So you should have seen a poll pop up on the side of your screen, and you're just going to select one of them. Are they reading the text, handouts, and slides and manuals? Are they listening to you? That means like lectures. Are they discussing concepts and practicing skills? Or are they teaching each other and learning from each other? What are they doing most in your classroom?
Was there a poll that was supposed to have come up, or?
So it should have popped up at the bottom right of your screen, Nancy. If it did not pop up for you all, you should see an icon on the bottom right of your screen that has a triangle, a square, and a circle. And if you click on that, it's your activities button. If you click on that, you should have an option to choose polls, and it will pop up.
Okay. Oh, okay. Okay, do I have to do something to submit it, or? Oh, there it goes.
Yeah, you should have a vote option.
Perfect. And so I believe everyone can see the results. Cool. All right. So I'm going to go through these all because as ELL instructors, you know, all of these are very important. Giving the students the opportunity to read text, go through different things, that's just as important because we need to give them those skills. How are they going to read materials? How are they going to read handouts or pamphlets? All of that is really good. But that's not the only thing. That is like the base of all our ELL instruction, and we want to make sure we're going beyond that. Listening to you, having those lectures. Lectures are great because they do need to hear that spoken English, and it's really important that we incorporate that into the classrooms. But if it's only you talking and them listening, we want, you know, there's only so much that they're going to get. We need to go a step beyond. Discussing concepts and practicing skills is essential because they do need to get out there. They need to practice what they've been learning in the classrooms and take it beyond. And the last one is teaching others and learning from each other. We want to make sure that we have classrooms that are engaging and very practical. We want to make sure we have practical lessons and activities and participation within our classes. And so all of these are important. I'm not saying that one's more important than the other, but it's important to have diversity, a little bit of everything. Perfect. So we're going to go ahead and keep going. Now, what exactly is brain-based learning? Ooh. There we go. All right. Brain-based learning, and I'm just going to read this long, boring quote. Brain-based learning refers to teaching methods, lesson designs, and school programs that are based on the latest scientific research about how the brain learns. and is motivated by the general belief that learning can be accelerated and improved if educators base how and what they teach on the science of learning rather than on past educational practices, established convictions, or assumptions about the learning process. Now, what in the world does that mean? Because halfway through, I zoned out as well. Okay. So, pretty much what this is talking about is how can we promote learning? And brain-based learning is all about being interactive, is all about trying to think about how to engage the brain more often within our lessons. We don't want to just give them handouts and lectures and handouts and lectures, even though those are good and they are essential because you do have to teach in some aspect, but it's not the only thing. The brain is so complex, so why are we doing so very simple material? So we really want to make sure that all of our learning is engaging the brain, is thinking about how can we utilize all of our brain into what we are teaching and how we are presenting materials. So a lot of this, I'm going to go back right quick, sorry. A lot of this is really thinking outside of the box of your normal teaching, trying to think about how we can get a little bit more. How can we engage students to utilize their brains? How can we get them to be a little bit outside of the box rather than in? So we're going to do a really quick write in the chat. Is how do you currently see brain-based learning in your classroom? Is there something that you see or something that you engage, or is it just a lecture? Is it just handouts? How do you see brain-based learning in your classroom? Maybe like 2 minutes to put it in the chat. So for example, if you're kind of drawing a blank at what to write, one of the brain-based learning that I would incorporate into my classroom is having them do a lot of like hands-on activities where they're having to get up and maybe doing a poll in the classroom. One of those stand up and sticky notes. I'm going to put a sticky note on the door, or if I'm teaching an ELL class, maybe I'm going to get up and identify which one is a student, or where's the table, where's under, where's over. That would be more of like a brain-based learning.
So Nancy says, Nancy Alvarado, I'm sorry, they're both Nancy. Nancy Alvarado says, I try to diversify the way that I'm teaching. It is really nice because the book that we are using also suggests a lot of these.
Awesome. What book are you using, Nancy?
I've got my puppy here, so she's loud. Grammar Sense.
Oh, nice. Okay.
I like the Grammar Sense books.
Oh, I do too. And then we also use Downtown.
Oh, all right. Perfect. Cool. Is there anything else in the chat, Jamie?
Nothing else yet.
Okay. So if you're still writing, that's perfectly fine. We're just going to keep going. And once that pops up, then I'll go ahead and have Jamie read it. So I love how you said that the book already has a diversity of activities, and it tells you engage your students like this or do like that, because that's exactly what we want to do. We want to get out of the mindset of just everyone come in, sit down, take notes. We really want them to be engaged in our lessons. So how can I do this? It's a great thing to just say, do brain-based learning, but how can we be intentional about it? And that's all this is about is, a lot of times we think about it and we want to do it, but how can I be intentional and actually create and plan a brain-based lesson? Now, if you guys have done TBR, this is some of the TBR concepts, or a huge part of the TBR concepts, and that is utilizing the 4 C's. Now, what does this mean? What does it mean to create one of these lessons? So the first thing, there are 4 C's. And so the first one is connection. Now, connection means that the learner is actively making connections. This is one of the first things that you want to do in your classroom. You want to get an activity that will give them the opportunity to connect with past knowledge and think about what they are going to learn within the classroom, what they're going to learn with their personal goals, and how they can learn from each other as a community. Typically, the instructor leads these short connection activities. Now, notice it does say short. A connection is just something that is brief. You don't want it to last for a whole long time, but you do want it to be very quick, brief, to the point, something that you can connect readily to. After connection, we want to think about how we are going to present the concepts. Now, remember, you are still teaching. Just because it's brain-based doesn't mean that you have to completely throw out the teaching part. You still need to present those concepts. And by lecture is usually one of the easiest ways for us to do it because it's what we are so used to. But this could be, by discussing, it could be writing, reflecting, participating in short activities. It could be a project. It's something, or it could be a lecture, a presentation, anything like that. It's just a short 10 to 20-minute presentation of the concepts. Now, there is a concept in psychology, and it's been a long time since I read it, and I was trying to look for it, but it says pretty much in the first 7 minutes, that's what a student is going to remember in their class. So you really want to target the skills, anything that you want within like the first 7 minutes of your actual lecture. Now, the connection is just something to get their brains kind of going and engaged. The concepts, you want to make it as short and brief as possible. Now, we're still directing all of our attention to the students, so we don't want to just say bomb, 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 boom, and it's done. We don't want to make it too short and choppy that we're not addressing the students' needs, but we do want to make sure that we're not going over that time limit because, like I said, research has shown that over a certain amount of time, they won't remember anything beyond those 7 to 10 minutes. Now, it depends on your materials. Sometimes it does take a little bit longer than 10, 20 minutes, but you want to make sure that it's as engaging as possible. Oh, I missed a slide in here, didn't I? I think so. Concrete practice. Concrete practice is how the learners practice a skill. So it's giving them that time to actually begin their the skills that you have just presented, those concepts. We're giving them time to really start focus in and dive into what you have just taught them. So if you're teaching an ELA class, this could be like past tense. It could be like talking in the past, explaining in the past. It could be doing an activity where it's past, present, and future. It could be about pronouns. You're giving them an activity that is that they have to actively work on, and this can be those individual reflections, and it can be as a whole class. And in this part, the instructors do observe and give the positive or corrective feedback. And lastly is a conclusion. The learners summarize and evaluate what they have learned in some sort of ending. They can celebrate what they've learned. They can ask questions. All of it does connect back together. All right, here it is. So what we're going to do is if you have a piece of paper, you are going to get just a blank piece of paper. Okay. Now, the easiest way to do something that is connected to the 4 C's is to draw it out. And I'm very much a hands-on person. So if you have like a computer and you prefer to use a computer, you can make a table. If you prefer to like draw on an iPad, you can do that, or you can get just a blank piece of paper and we're just going to fold it into fourths. Now, it doesn't matter how you fold it into fourths, whichever way is most effective for you. For myself, I like the hamburger. I think it's 2 hamburger style. Ooh, the other day, while we're folding our paper, the other day I told my students, fold it into a hamburger and then a hamburger. And they say, what's a hamburger? Oh, that made me feel so old. I was like, okay, thanks guys. I appreciate it. Hamburger and hamburger. So you should have 4 columns or 4 boxes. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. Now in this box, you're going to write connection. Ooh, here we go. Just right up there, connection. I don't know if anybody can see that, but in the next box, you're going to write concept. And in the third box, you're going to write concrete practice. And the last one is going to be conclusion. Jamie, if you don't mind typing those up in the chat. Perfect. So I know it's kind of hard to see mine, but mine are all labeled. Awesome. So what we're going to do now, as you guys are doing that connection concept, concrete practice, and conclusion, what we're going to do is just some notes. And now this is a way to show how you could possibly do something in your classroom that is very similar to this. As I am giving some of these concepts, would be considered concrete practice. So here we go. In your connections box, I just want you to take notes. You don't have to write down everything, but you can write down ideas. You can write down these notes. You can write what you would like to do in your class just to kind of get your brain going. And so you have all of these notes right here and they're not going anywhere, and you don't have to think, oh, well, I wanted to do that. Or later on, you're like, oh, why didn't I write that down? This is just for you. So in that connections box, we're going to talk about connection activities. Now, connections activities should be the opening of a class. And I know I already talked about a lot of this before, but we're going to just expand on it a little bit more. So this is the opening of a class. Should generally take between like 5 and 7 minutes. It shouldn't be too awful long because it is just that brief connection to get the student's mind engaged. Remember, you want to make sure that this is something just to kind of give them a boost, to get them engaged in class. If you start right away with a lecture, I guarantee you it's going to go straight out because you're still having students walk in late, or maybe they join the meet late, or they're still distracted just with work and life, and they're not really focused on the class. So you want to make sure you give them a connection to draw them in. As learners, they should make connections with what they already know or what they will know for the lesson. So this could be like a pre-test if you wanted it to be. One of the things I do in my ELA classrooms is I give them a pre-test of vocabulary words, and which ones do you know, which ones you don't know. And it's really quick, really easy. And all they have to do is check mark, I know this word or I don't know this word. Something like that, just so that they know these words will pop up later in the class. And it gives them that idea, okay, well, I do know this one, so, and I've used it before in this sense or not. It should become engaging with the lesson. Any of these activities should be carried on. You don't want to say something like, what is your favorite color? And then never talk about colors in the classroom. You really want to make sure that it connects all together in some way eventually. As the teacher, make it relevant. You want to think about the beginning with the end in mind. You always want to make sure you're constantly thinking, all right, if I do this activity, how will it reflect and end in the end? Am I really being relevant or am I not? How can I get that all together to make sure it merges completely? So, like I said, these connection activities should be short, should be quick, something to really engage that learner, because those first few minutes of class, when they step into class, we want to make sure, yes, life is going on, they have kids, they have all of that, but we want to make sure that they are focused and engaged with the classroom as quickly as possible. If we don't get that connection with them, then the whole class, and we've all seen it before, where the whole class just kind of goes rah, 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 like it doesn't work at all. So we want to make sure that those connections are very strong. Perfect. So in the next box, we're going to talk about concepts. Remember, these contexts refer to the direct instruction. These are going to be new ideas. These are going to be the new vocab or the new grammar portions. It could be doing an activity, something like that, how to read or how to fill out an application, something of that nature. It's that direct instruction that you have to give to the students. Remember, you cannot just say, all right, I want to have an interactive lessons, but I don't want to give any instruction. It doesn't work that way. We still need to have that instruction portion. As a learner, they should be engaged and attentive. That's very hard, especially with some of our adult learners who have lives going on and they're constantly, making sure that their students are there, or that their kiddos are all right, or their work isn't calling, stuff like that. But we want to make sure that they are engaged and as attentive as possible. And we've all had those classes where it looks like the students are just going to fall over in their chairs because they're so tired and they're not there. But we want to try to make sure that we have some sort of engagement, and we can always tell by their body language. Body language is a huge thing. So you want to make sure that you see that attentiveness with them. Have them take notes, have them ask questions, have them make those continual connections. If it was something that you started with, remember, be Be intentional about it. You want to make sure that your beginning activity kind of continues through from the beginning to the end. It doesn't matter what it is, they have to be making that continual connection. As the instructor, you should be brief and effective. Make sure you're saying all that you want to, make it as clear to the point as possible. We can go on and on over and over, and somebody who likes to ramble knows that this is probably the hardest part. I love talking sometimes, and so I know I can go on and on and on, but we really do want to be brief. We want to be effective in our teaching style. Teach for the students' needs. This is so important. I know we all have a curriculum, but running through a curriculum isn't going to help them if we're not teaching to their needs. So we want to make sure that we're always connecting back to them as well. We want to teach them the concepts that are going to matter the most. Now, if it is vocabulary, or maybe we can take some time to help with accents or stuff like that, you want to make sure you're teaching for students' needs. And then make the lesson interactive. Keep those students engaged. Ask them questions. Do pop quiz questions. Popcorn, you can have them, if you're in person, you can have them write some of the questions on the board. You can have them teach some of the lesson, something like that to keep them interactive. Make it a little spontaneous. You never want them to kind of get in that lull of, okay, she's talking, so we're done. We don't have to say anything. If I look still, if I keep still, maybe she won't call on me, kind of thing. We want to make sure that it is interactive in some way. Perfect. Now on your paper, we're going to concrete practice, that third box. Now with concrete practice, it is that time within the class to practice the concepts that you have just presented. Now, the students should be able to practice these new skills individually and in a group setting. Sometimes it's a little bit easier to do it individually, especially if you are still online. Students like that individuality, but it's also good to get them in a group setting, especially with our ELL students. They need to be able to talk with people, to interact. It's such an essential skill that they need to be able to be in that group setting to teach not only themselves, but others. This is what I learned. So they do need to be able to teach those new skills to others. And this is one of those things where they need to get into groups and say, all right, I learned this, now let me teach you this. Or, that, how are we knowing that they are actually learning the materials? Are we just saying, all right, now fill out this handout, which is great. I love handouts. Handouts are wonderful. It gives them good writing practice. It gives them reading practice. They are good, but we need to go beyond that as well. They need to be able to teach others. They need to be able to communicate with the others. They need to be as interactive in this skill that you have just presented. As instructors, we need to limit lecture times. Now, it's so easy to, when we're seeing someone making a mistake, go, oh, no, that's not how you do it. Let me show you. Let me fix it for you. I don't know who would do that either, but, we tend to do that a lot. And so we want to make sure that we limit that lecture time, allow students to work on their own with limited guidance. If they ask, that's great. Have them make mistakes and say, all right, there was an error here. How would we fix it? And don't fix it for them. Have somebody else in the class. Make it so that way they are still showing, they are still teaching that skill that they have learned. And if the student body isn't able to help and say, oh, I don't know why, or I don't know the past tense of run, then you can say, all right, now this is a new word that we can do. Let me teach it to you. Now let's try it again. Always allow the students to work on it on their own and to interact within their own limits. Okay, they're learning. We do have to keep that in mind. They are learning, so we still need to guide them, but let them make their mistakes so that way the students can teach them, or exactly which skill to address later on.
And Nancy, Nancy Alvarado put in the chat, I agree that the correction should be at the end of the activity as much as possible and not in the middle of what someone is saying, unless they ask for help.
Yes, that is essential. And if they do ask for help in the middle, again, you might want to say, oh, that's a great question. Can Susan tell me what the answer is? Or can anybody tell me what the answer is? Because you don't want to have, most of us can say, oh yes, I have all of the answers here in my little pocket, like here they are. That's great. Being the teacher, yeah, you should have a good amount of the answers readily available, but it's not going to help them any if you just spout out the answers. Give them the opportunity to work it out themselves. That is going to be essential.
I always have students that want to correct each other, right? I mean, especially if someone's reading and they mispronounce a word, somebody corrects them. And to me, that's just so embarrassing, you know? Wait till the end and then let's talk about how to say it.
Yes, that is perfect. One of the things that I do in my classes is if they are reading like an activity, um, if a student hears a word, I always tell them, like, one of my rules is if you hear a word that either sounds weird or you don't think it's right, circle it. And then at the end, we can pull it all up and all of the circles we can go over together. So that way, by the end of it, especially if it's a long reading passage, we don't remember who read what. It doesn't really matter who read it. It's just mattering that we get it corrected all together as a group, because it is a group. It's a community of students together, and that's what we want to really emphasize, is that we're all learning, we're all trying to build each other up, not bring each other down. Wonderful. Thank you, Nancy. Perfect. And the last box that we have is the wrap up and the conclusion of a lesson. One of the things that's really important is limit your lessons that are open ended. Now, I know sometimes it's like we don't get to everything that we want and we say, oh, we'll finish it tomorrow. That's fine. There are going to be some of those lessons, especially with ESL learners or ELL learners, where it's one of those things where it's like, oh man, this was just so hard. Maybe they didn't quite understand it. We'll continue tomorrow. That's fine. But you do want the students to have a sense of closure, like they did really well. So we can close this lesson down where we finished it. It's great. We'll have a connection activity tomorrow, but we really finished what we did today. So you do want to have a conclusion. You don't want them to be working, and then say, okay, guys, bye. Give them that sense of satisfaction of, hey, we made it through class. We did it. We're done with it. So students should be able to summarize what they have done through some sort of assessment. Now, when I say assessment, that doesn't mean like it has to be a test. It could be a thumbs up, thumbs down activity. It could be a sticker activity. It could be, how comfortable did you feel with this? It's just something to really have that sense of closure for that end of the class. Now, again, this can be 5 minutes. It could be 10 minutes. It doesn't have to be very long at all. If you want it to be a quiz, you can. One, like I said, at the beginning of mine, I usually do a which vocab words do you know, which ones don't you know? And then at the end, I will do, all right, now from this lesson, do you know this word now? And they'll put yes or no, something like that. And as a teacher, it gives you the ability to see what needs to be studied more, or if that lesson was good and you don't have to go back to it. The instructors should create an activity that allows students to evaluate their skills, celebrate successes, and ask questions or get clarification. It's all right if they have questions. It's all right to say, hey, okay, we did it. We don't have to go any further. It's wonderful. You all did great. And the students really get a boost of confidence when they see that, when they're able to celebrate, hey, I finally got down past tense verbs, or hey, I really got down pronouns or something like that. It's a really great time to allow them to have those small successful moments, because it'll lead to greater success in the future. Cool. All right, so wrapping up is a 4C's lesson plan. Now, this wonderful little sheet of paper would have been a concrete practice because we're actively doing something. Now, did I give you time to actually do it on your own? No, I did not, but that'll come later. But it is something to kind of think, that can be a way to do some of these practices. That's a way to do some of these practices. But this 4C's lesson plan. Now, what I did for this lesson is I created a lesson plan for this implementing brain-based learning strategies to support ELL. So for this webinar, is I went ahead and I created a 4C's lesson plan. So all I did here was the learner outcomes, and this is a little small, so I'm going to make it just a tad bigger. Perfect. And so I just put the learning outcomes, which is exactly what I did at the very beginning, where we went over and I said, by the end of this, you should be able to A and B. The total lesson time was about 30 to 45 minutes. Now we are a little over time, but that's fine because we're still here, we're still good. And then for here with the connections, I just said about 5 minutes. The learner activity was a reflection question poll, and the poll was in meets. Those were the materials I needed. Now, for C2 was the concepts, is the lecture on the 4Cs with the slides presentation, which was supposed to be about 10-15 minutes, with the concrete practice being 10 minutes as well, with the lesson plan and note-taking activity, where everyone needed either a paper, pencil, pen, marker, whatever we had. If I was doing this in person, then it would definitely be a pen and paper or pencil and paper. And then the conclusion activity would be 5 minutes of where you learned and what you learned, and that Padlet conclusion, which we are about to do. Now, I'm not a fan of lesson plans because my brain does not work like that. It's usually going in like 7 different directions. And I've said this several times. My lesson plan usually consists of a sticky note with A, B, C, and D. This helps to just make sure that we're a little bit more intentional and making sure that we are doing all of these things um, in our classrooms, and we're taking time to say, all right, I'm going to take 15 minutes here, I'm going to take 10 minutes here, 10 minutes there, 5 minutes here, or 25 minutes. It just helps us to be a little bit more organized. And if you are not as organized as some, like me, this is a really good way to make sure that you stay on track and with everything together. All right. And I did see Jamie's chat. I will put this lesson plan here in, or did you put the link in the chat, Jamie?
I did, yes.
Okay, then I did not read that right. See, that's why we have a moderator here. Awesome. So what we're going to do now, as we are exiting, and this would be our conclusion for this lesson, is I have a Padlet, excuse me. There we go. I have this Padlet link. And this is just wrapping up. What I would like you guys to do, and I should have given this to Jamie earlier. I didn't. I'll go ahead and put it in the chat. Right here on this Padlet, implementing brain-based learning strategies to support ELLs, all you guys are going to do is say, reflect on this webinar, which is exactly what we're doing. Is I want you to take this time as a conclusion to say, this is what I learned, this is how I understood it. I want you to think, and there's 4 different categories. The first category says, explain a connection activity in your classroom. And I don't know why it has a question mark, but it does, okay? Explain why a connection activity in your classroom. What do you do that would help connect your students? Now, this could be something that you want to do later on, or this could be something that you are currently doing right now. The next one is name a way you present concepts within your classroom. Is this through slides? Is it through Nearpod? Is it a PowerPoint presentation? Do you have like a question and answer? How do you present concepts within your classroom? The next one is, how can you create effective concrete practice? What are some things that you can think of, either, again, what you are currently doing or something that you would like to do in the future? Is it a project? Is it an activity? Is it handouts? How do you want, how would you create effective concrete practice? And the last one is, what is one way you can conclude your class? And this can be anything from thumbs up, thumbs down. Again, something that you're either already doing or something that you would like to do in the future. Now, this is just a activity for you, and it helps us for our workshop that is coming up to kind of think about what we could do, how we can expand, and where we can go from here.
Something I need help with is that I have a hybrid class.
Mm-hmm.
So I have students online and I have students in the classroom. We're all meeting at the same time. And it is so hard to engage the people online. Like today we had a birthday party. So I had decided I was going to do like a marcha, but with verbs. And they would make a line and then go down and answer each verb with the past tense, present perfect. And then the next person would go to the end of the line, so and so and so, until they finished, everybody had gone through the line. But then I had a person come online and I'm like, oh no, what do I do?
No.
I'm like, I was totally thrown because I had an idea, but then when that person came online and they hadn't been online for a while, so I didn't expect it, and
Oh, got it.
so we did finally as a class figure it out, but it was hard, and I don't want to make that person online feel like they're not welcome or that they're causing complications.
Mhm. Yeah. I think that's actually um a perfect activity that we can work on Thursday is talking about how to do something that would engage them online. Since you do have a hybrid class, that would be an activity that we could really discuss um, in our workshop because I'm sure a lot of people are actually dealing with some of this. Um, I've recently I didn't realize I feel like well everyone in Clovis area is doing this, so everyone around New Mexico must be doing the exact same thing. Not the case at all. Um, so I do tend to forget that people are still online and there's still that hybrid option or the synchronous and asynchronous, kind of things going on. But I think that would be a great one to really hash out um, on Thursday or on Wednesday, excuse me, when we have our workshop.
Yeah, that's because it it throws you for a loop, and I never want that person to think, well, I'm causing problems by being here.
Exactly.
And
I
it's
have
not
kind of
because of COVID, it's because they're far away.
Hmm.
I have kind of the opposite problem. I only have one student usually in each class who comes into the center, and the others are all online
Oh wow.
because they are far. They're a distance away. And yeah, trying to get something. I mean, what I've done is a lot of just projects where they kind of work at their own pace, but to kind of do whole group things has been tricky.
Hmm. I love that. And I'm going to think about that a little bit more and we can share a lot of the ideas that we come up with in that workshop because that would be a really great tool to have for everyone, especially since we are seeing a lot more of that hybrid, as people are either far away as you guys said or um, maybe they just don't want to because of COVID concerns still. I think that's a really good activity that we can discuss within our workshop. Awesome.
That'd be
Thank
great. Okay, so we're supposed to fill this thing out now?
Yes, and you can do it now. You can do it on your own time. Just as long as you have the link, you should be able to do it. So on March 30th, which is this Wednesday, we are taking theory to practice. Everything that we have just discussed today, we are going to really expand on it. And you already gave a great topic that we can work on. These workshops are designed for you all. Um, I will have some things as a project, like if we kind of hit a dry spot and there's like a whole lot that you're not really sure quite where to go with, I will have something readily available that we can work on. But it does sound like there's a lot of great ideas here that we can really discuss and go over. And so I'm real excited to see how we can explore some of the 4C models within these ELL situations, whether they're hybrid or asynchronous. Um, you guys have some really interesting situations and I would love to see how we can really work together and bring some ideas on how to make it a little bit more um, seamless, and I'm excited about that. We're going to practice designing a lesson using the 4Cs models, and then we're going to just share experiences, ask questions, collaborate with other ELL instructors, and hopefully there's a little bit more of us here, but if not, this is really great just to bounce ideas back and forth because this is exactly what we need. We need to make sure that we are building a community of teachers across New Mexico. Sometimes it gets a little lonely still. I mean, we're still all kind of in our separate spots, but we do want to make sure that we have this community of ELL instructors. Awesome. Well, thank you all for coming today. Does anybody have any questions before we say goodbye?
I
Not me.
appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks so much.
Awesome.
Nancy, you have to talk more. Look, are you there?
That's not who I am.
Oh no. And me, I won't shut up. So
So we balance out.
okay. I try to type, but then I'm like, no, I just want to say it. I can't wait.
And that works. That works. I love it. Well, thank you all. Y'all are amazing. And we will see you all on the 30th at noon. Have a great day, guys.
Thank you all.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.